And I got into trouble for that. I mean, a lot of trouble. They would take me to the principal's office and paddle me. And we are teaching all the kids to memorize. And what are we memorizing? We're memorizing the answers to last century's problems. Cut out the grading in grades kindergarten through grade 6. Why would we ever grade those kids? You know, people will forget what you said and they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel, ever. That's the problem. So they put tight controls on those kids, and then we have a depression rate today of 54% of college freshmen are clinically depressed. If you take a look at all the people that are innovators on the web, innovators with all kinds of companies, entrepreneurs, they are all the kids who did not get A's.
Welcome back to the Supported Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Sebastian. I am joined today by Esther Wojcicki, joining us today live from California. Esther, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Happy to report that.
I'm glad to have you here. So I want to start by just getting your journey through education to where you are today. How did it all start? Where did you always know where you wanted to go? Just kind of walk us through your learning journey for us.
Well, my learning journey began when I was about 10. I was one of these kids. I was in the Los Angeles public schools, and I was one of these kids that was always done with my work early. So then the question is, what do you do when you're done early? Well, according to Los Angeles public schools in the 90s and 60s, you're just supposed to sit there like a little robot. Does not work. So I, unfortunately, was busy helping all my friends, and I got into trouble for that. I mean, a lot of trouble. They would take me to the principal's office and paddle me. Then they would do other things like whack me with rulers. And then I think the worst thing of all, one of the teachers put me under her desk for 2 hours. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So as a little girl, age 10, I said to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to change the system so that people can help each other and work together. And that's what I did. My central focus of my teaching is collaboration. And by the way, in the 1980s and 90s, that is, if you were alive at that point, I don't know if you remember this, but collaboration in the 1980s and 90s was called cheating. You always had to do the work yourself. If you didn't do it yourself, you got into trouble and you got an F. So I've been on this bandwagon to promote collaboration for my whole life.
So what does collaboration look like today in education, and is it done effectively?
Well, there is not very much collaboration because what do? You take a test by yourself, right? And it's your score versus, the score next to you, the person next to you. And we are teaching all the kids to memorize. And what are we memorizing? We're memorizing the answers to last century's problems. How useful is that? I mean, that's what we're doing in history. That's what we're doing actually all over the curriculum, with the exception of math, although we're still doing math the same way we've done it for a long time. There are other ways to do math, and collaboration, by the way, did you notice that all companies collaborate? People in the real world collaborate. So why aren't we teaching kids to collaborate? Why are they doing it by themselves?
So you've actually built a media arts program, Palo Alto High media arts program from nothing. It's into one of the largest journalism programs in the country. What did you do differently? How did you inject the skills of collaboration? And how is that true journalism from what's being taught anywhere else?
So what I was doing, first of all, I started in the 1980s using computers when nobody else was using computers. I was probably the first teacher in the state of California to use computers, and I didn't know how to use them, so I asked my students to help me. And I'll tell you, they loved it. they were there on the weekend. They were there all the time because they wanted to help get these things to go. And we had to network them. I didn't even know what networking was, let alone how to get on a computer, turn it on or turn it off. And so I built into the program collaboration, especially using computers. My philosophy was, first of all, you should learn how to find the information online. If you can't find it online, second thing you should do, ask your friend. If they still don't know how to do it, ask a second friend. After that, if they still can't figure out what to do, I'm here. You can always ask me. All right, so I was saying about how the reason kids wanted to join my class is because they never had to worry about their grade. They always got to work with their friends, and they got to write articles about things that they personally thought were interesting. So who wouldn't want to do that? So I managed, in the first year I was teaching, I had 20 kids. The following year I had 40. Then the next year I had 60. It kept going up. And by the year 2000, I had 100.
You've been called the Godmother of Silicon Valley. How did that nickname come be? How did it stick? And what does it actually mean?
Isn't that the craziest thing? Well, what that is a lot of the kids that were in my program went out into the real world, got jobs, and they brought a lot of the culture from my program into the companies that they worked for. And the culture of my program was basically just do it and revise, do it quickly. And then Facebook came up with this thing is like move quickly and break things. I never said break things. I said revise. He forgot to put revise after the break things. But I guess they assumed that you would just do it again. And so I think that culture just traveled around and it seemed to have worked. The first company that was using it was just this tiny little company in 1999 called Google. And Google was the first company in Silicon Valley. It's crazy. The first company in Silicon Valley to do away with time clocks. I don't know, you're too young to remember this. But when everybody went to work, oh, you do? Okay, well, all right. Well, maybe they had time clocks where you are in Pittsburgh. But I can tell you in Silicon Valley, no one has time clocks now. But when in the 90s and early 2000s, everybody had time clocks. So if you got to work 5 minutes late, you got docked. Not only that, they had a device that measured how long you were sitting in your seat. So if you were not sitting in your seat long enough, you also got docked. And so there were a lot of big companies that had this. I'm not exaggerating. One of them just happened to be Intel. And Intel was where my daughter Susan first worked after she graduated. And she was only too happy to leave that job and go to work for Google. So she was Google's 16th employee.
Wow, 16.
Number 16. And her role when she joined, her number one role was, please find a way for us, Google, to make money. Because we know how to find all the information online with algorithms, but we don't have a clue how to make money. So Susan came up with the way, AdSense, for Google to make money.
So she basically invented Google Ads?
That's basically right.
Wow.
Correct.
That's
you have to be creative, something like that.
Is she still with Google?
Susan was the CEO of YouTube.
CEO of YouTube.
She also bought YouTube for Google. She's the one that developed YouTube into the powerhouse it is today.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you're like royalty. That makes you royalty then, right? Not just a godmother.
That's how I got to be the royalty godmother. Yes. It's really funny. Yes, I'm
So-
busy trying to help other people now.
So, yeah, I mean, talk more about, so obviously you're part of the education, I don't want to say system, but just part of the education experience, right? And you have this very wide and deep impact on innovative technologies. And you spoke earlier about how education, the archaic look of education, what needs to happen for education to change and basically meet the demands of the modern world through the innovative lenses of what you just spoke about.
Number one thing that education needs to do to modernize and to have an impact on the world is to cut out the force of grading. Grading is number one thing that makes kids feel stupid. And also they have just one shot at the grade. And, they perhaps have a bad day. And that reflects, what they think of as their ability. Grades do a lot of damage. So in order for them to get rid of, in my class, to get rid of grades, I still kept grades. It's just that I let everybody revise until they could get a good grade. And in that revision process, when you make mistakes, that's when you're learning. You don't learn by watching somebody else or listening to somebody else and copying them. You learn by doing it yourself. And so that's what they could do to make a big difference. Give kids an opportunity to revise and to work in groups, to work collaboratively. So I have this formula. It's in my book, How to Raise Successful People. And that book is in 33 languages, by the way, at the moment. And let me tell you what the philosophy is. It's called TRICK, TRICK. And it stands for trust, respect, independence, collaboration, and kindness. So you need to trust your students so that they then trust themselves. You trust that they can learn to do whatever it is you're teaching them. Okay, maybe they don't learn it the first time. Maybe they do the second or third or fourth. They have to trust themselves that they can actually learn it and do well, and respect them by respecting their ideas. Some of the magazines that my students came up with at Palo Alto High School, today there's 14 magazines. Some of those ideas I thought were downright wacky, but I let them do it anyway. Because I was like, okay, if that's something you think other kids are going to like, why don't we try it? So respect their ideas, give them independence to try a lot of things, collaborate, don't dictate. And then the most important, of course, treat them with kindness. People will forget what you said and they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel, ever.
So I love that, by the way, because I think that's a really good message of the educators that impact kids the most are the ones that make them feel like a certain way, right? Feel welcome, feel that they actually made a difference. They don't necessarily remember the specific facts that they taught them or the information, right? It's the transformation that actually happened in the learning space. You spoke a lot about collaboration, but also a key theme, I think, especially in your book that comes to mind, is independence. And just there's been a lot that's happened in the last 20 years in education. And just from someone who's inside the system, I see less independence. I see more dependence on parents than ever before when we have more tools that can promote independence. But it's something that scares parents.
They're scared because they don't think that their child is going to earn the grade that they need to get in order to get into the college that they expect them to go to. That's the problem. So they put tight controls on those kids. And then we have a depression rate today of 54% of college freshmen are clinically depressed. That's crazy.
Yeah, and not only depressed, but anxious too. The anxious generation.
Anxious, depressed, eating disorders, afraid to do a lot of things, don't want to try anything new. Why don't you want to try anything new? Because you're afraid you'll make a mistake. Stop being so fearful. And also, if you take a look at all the people that are innovators on the web, innovators with all kinds of companies, entrepreneurs, they are all the kids who did not get A's. There are actually a lot of kids who dropped out, a lot of kids who were doing poorly because they're the ones that actually had the courage to think. So I want to make this opportunity for people to think for everybody. So all kids should have the opportunity to revise. That's the simplest way to go about it. You can revise until you get it right. And I even use this in my math classes. I taught algebra and geometry. So don't tell me you can't do it in math.
So have you read The Coddling of the American Mind by John Hattie?
I did. I'm sorry to say, John Haidt is a nice person, but I think that book is terrible. And not only that, it's giving all the parents an ulcer. They're all they're just freaked out because they gave their kids the phone too early and now they don't know what to do. So there's all these kids in therapy, parents in therapy. Everybody's worried about the phone. Terrible. No, I disagree with that book completely.
Are you're referring to The Anxious Generation, his latest one about the phone?
Of course I'm referring to The Anxious Generation. Is there anything else? Anxious Generation of Parents.
Right. The Coddling American Mind, because there was something you said earlier about being raised in the 80s and 90s. So that's in terms of the safetyism and learned dependence, is that parents are not allowing, just on the global perspective, parents are not allowing kids to experience failure early or failing safely early. That's his theory.
They're not even allowing them to experience other people's opinions.
Right.
Because that is what Jonathan was talking about. We're afraid to let kids understand what other groups are saying. They don't even want to do that. As a matter of fact, kids will come in and they're like, I went to this lecture and I was really disturbed by the lecture and I need therapy. Are you kidding? That's what's happening.
So how do we self-correct? So like, it seems like, just from because I taught history. It seems like we're in a little bit of like a death spiral. I don't know how we get out of it because it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. How do we educate our way back to being independent and being successful in what we know as independent children that can collaborate? And
well, number one thing is cut out the grading in grades kindergarten through grade 6. Why would we ever grade those kids? You grade them and then they get a C or a D and they're like, I'm bad at math or I'm bad at English. Those self-images are formed when they're young. Why do we do that to kids? It's terrible. How about just saying they need to improve in this area or improve in that area? No grades.
So
terrible.
As someone that I have 3 daughters as well, by the way. So
that's great. You're lucky.
I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed. They're healthy. They're 10, 8, and 6. And part of me looks at this world that I'm going to eventually put them in as someone that helps kids get some top AP scores and help them navigate college admissions. I honestly, as an educator of 16 years, don't know if I'm going to push them towards college, given where we're at right now and where AI is advancing. But I want them to be successful. I want them to be independent. You've obviously raised 3 remarkably successful daughters. Looking back, what's the parenting move you got right that you think most parents don't?
I think I trusted my kids and I did not get upset when they got a bad grade. I was like, it's okay. Just try to figure out why you got the bad grade. Let's see what we can do so that you can learn it, so you can then do better on the next test. And I helped them trust and believe in themselves. That was the most important thing. If you just think about Susan and what she had to do at Google with YouTube, there was no path for her to follow. There was no way for her to say, oh, I'm going to follow what so-and-so did, because there was no other way to do it. There was no Google before that. She had to come up with the ideas herself. So she had to believe in herself. And I'll tell you a story that shows what she really had to do with YouTube that is shocking. Before YouTube, there was another product called Google Video.
I
bet
remember
you
it.
never heard of Google Video.
I remember it.
Well, it was not good, to put it mildly. And that was Susan's project. And she had spent $1 billion building it. $1 billion. And so what she had to do is go to the board of Google and say, I made a terrible mistake, and now we have to buy this other company that I found out there, this little thing called YouTube, which actually has no track record yet. Can you imagine? She did that and she succeeded, and they bought it, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And then she created the YouTube that today beats all video companies everywhere in the world.
I remember the early days of YouTube back in the college times. I think before Google bought it. I remember what a wild place YouTube was prior to Google buying it.
That's right. So I'm just telling you, you have to believe in yourself. You could not do something like that if you didn't believe in yourself. So your 3 daughters, I don't care what grades they get, they're fine. If they don't do a good job, you just say, do it again. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, my wife's from the Philippines, and I mean, she values education, and she's a very proud mama. We've been blessed. She's been a stay-at-home mama for 8 years now. And that's why I argue, because I don't even know. I'm a bad educator parent that I can't even open the grade book. Like I forget that they get grades. I'm so into doing my own thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, but she keeps like every piece of work, all of her grade. Like, I'm like, I think we need to let that go too, because that's becoming an issue. But
Who keeps it? Your wife keeps it?
Oh, my wife. Oh yeah.
Your wife does it?
Yeah. I'm like, we need to let this, all the papers,
No. The kids are in charge, not her. I always said to my students, you can't take me to college with you. So therefore, you've got to do it all yourself. Everything you're learning, you do yourself, because I'm not going to college. I've already been there.
Right.
And your wife has to let them do it themselves, collect their own stuff, do their own thing, be in charge of their own lives. As long as she's in charge, then she has the control.
Oh yeah. We'll inject you into our couple stuff.
Put her on. I'll have a little word with her.
Well, it's so true, because watching my 3 grow up. So my oldest one, she's still afraid of the dark in some cases. One day she'll watch this YouTube and she'll be embarrassed. But as a 10-year-old, still the third one is probably the most independent. We call her like a little mom.
Well, that's because your wife didn't have time to boss her around. That's right. And
she watches the
she needs to stop bossing the other ones around too. She can stop now. The oldest one's 10. There's still hope.
Yeah. So I'll pass along that. I'll say, hey, the mother of the CEO of YouTube told me that we need to let her experience a little bit of learned independence.
That's right.
So I appreciate that. So yeah, I mean the AI, I'm sure you've obviously heard about it, right? Learned about where it's
going. A few things about AI.
where do you, now, I remember 3 years ago when we first heard of ChatGPT in schools, and within 2 days, I think we had our first cheating case of someone plagiarizing using AI and trying to figure out. Right. Now, I guess, there's the debate in schools if we have kids use AI, if they don't use AI, where do we stand? But what I think is very similar to the social media argument is that I grew up in a world without social media. Am I addicted? Probably. But I know how to function in life without social media. Most kids do not at this point. AI, there's going to be a whole generation of kids that grow up with AI that at the first chance they get to ask a question, they're asking AI for the answers. So in terms of, I'm going to frame the AI question around independence and success. Where do you see it going, and what do we need to do with it?
Well, so I think, first of all, the number one thing that they should do in the schools with AI is when they have kids working with AI, they should be in groups of 2 or 3, never by yourself. Because what happens then is that you are getting an answer or response, and then you're talking to each other about it. So that promotes collaboration and gets rid of the isolated feeling that a lot of kids have when they're using AI. I don't know why schools don't do it. It's cheaper. It's actually better if kids do it together as a team. And then the other thing with AI, you need to teach kids how to ask questions so that AI can be like the teacher's helper as opposed to doing the work for them. You don't want the AI to write the essay for them. You want the kids to write the essay themselves and then have AI edit it and make suggestions. That is how you learn. And then you do it again, and then the AI will make edits and corrections again. But if they know they're not going to get a terrible grade, that's the inhibiting factor, the grade. If they know that they can just keep trying until they get it right and do it themselves, they're going to do that. The reason that they're cheating and going to AI to do the work is because of the pressure of the grade. That's the pressure. That's the problem. That's what happened to you too, but in case you don't remember.
Well, I used to tell my parents that I like to have a wide assortment of grades on the report card. I think you want the tour of the alphabet. I'm just kidding. I got these. I think I mean, it's hard. I mean, like, I remember parts of my childhood and my high school journey very vividly, and parts of it I don't. Like, I think I got decent grades, but in terms of like the effort and I absolutely could have tried. I pretty much coasted through a lot. But now I look at the kids that we serve and I'm blown away. They're amazing. Like, they're into a lot of things. But yes, I speak to parents every day. I speak to a lot that they're championing their kids, but there is so much grade inflation, especially on the AP side. Like, we have a whole thing of like by A students.
Why is there grade inflation? Because all the kids are terrified, and all the parents, they're going to take their kid out of your program if you don't give them an A.
No, I'm talking about school. Like, they're bullying the teachers into better grades.
That's right. Well, it's just crazy. We need to do something about the grades. The grades are not helping us. The grades are giving everybody a complex.
Yeah, and then I think it becomes...
We need to let kids revise till they get the grade they want. I had kids that had to revise 10 times, by the way.
So that was my doctoral program at Pitt. One class, the first class we had, you should have seen. So it's a group of 60 educators across the education spectrum, 11 administrators and people in other environments. And the first class, it was A or redo, meaning you're either getting an A or you have to redo the paper. And you should have seen a group of educators lose their, what do you mean? What do you mean I have to redo it? Losing their minds with that. But I think that is actually a great philosophy that actually promotes a growth mindset, that it's not good enough to be of stuff, or you need to keep on revising it. And that way you take all the vacuum out of the grade. But you're telling me you raised 3 successful daughters without ever worrying about grades with them. Did not care.
That's right. They were in charge of their grades. I was not in charge. They were their life, their grades. So whatever they got, but they fortunately went to an elementary school here in Palo Alto that had no grades for the first 6 years.
And you think that's where we need to adopt universally?
It has to be adopted nationwide. No grades. Did you see what's going on in Florida? The majority of the Florida residents can't read. Well, why can't they read? They don't teach them how to read using phonics, but the main problem is that kids are afraid to make a mistake. Right. And so they don't read, they just guess until they can get the A or whatever grade it is they want. I mean, it's terrible. The reading level in the U.S., 54% of American adults read at a 5th grade level. 5th grade. That's how we got the political situation we did. Most people don't even know where Iran is.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot. I think there's a lot to be said for that in terms of where we're not a nation of critical
Well,
thinkers.
it's
We
easier
don't
to do things when people think.
absolutely.
Yes. Anyway, but let's put it this way. We need everybody to, if they want to lead a really good, productive, happy life, they have to be able to read, for God's sake. And they also feel
100%.
better about themselves. We have so many adults that are depressed. People have therapists. They're always worried. I mean, the divorce rate is it's crazy. 50% of the people get divorced. That's a traumatic experience for the parents
Okay.
and for the kids. Oh my God, what a world we have today. Sorry, I'm trying to make it
No, it's
better.
okay. We are we're going to shift gears here.
Actually,
We'll do lightning round right now.
I have to take off my glasses. Sorry, I can't stand it.
You said you're coming to Pittsburgh, right? When are you coming to Pittsburgh? Soon?
When or how?
Yeah, when? No, I know how. Probably by flight, right?
September.
Okay.
I'm flying. It's no horse and
Oregon Trail
pony.
Reverse Oregon Trail it?
No, I'm not going to do that. Flying.
Well, I would love to link up with you, have a longer conversation about this. So, I'll
be happy to do that when I'm in Pittsburgh. Awesome. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Let me move to lightning round. Let's finish it out with lightning round. So basically, no explanation needed, just some rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind. Does that sound good?
Okay. That sounds fun.
Yep. All right. Most overrated thing in modern parenting?
The Jonathan Hates book.
I'm going to have him on the podcast. I'm going to see if he counters that.
Yes, you could. It's a terrible book. It's making all the parents upset.
Most underrated.
Next.
How about the most underrated thing in modern parenting?
Underrated? Giving kids an opportunity to exercise some control over what they watch and see on their television shows or whatever. Because kids are pretty smart. They're smarter than you think.
How about one book every parent should read?
How to Raise Successful People by Esther Wojcicki.
How about one book besides your own that they should read? That is a great book, by the way.
There's a really good book about happiness that is coming out, or it might already be out. And sorry to say, I don't have the exact title, but one of the authors, her last name is Harding, Harding. And it's a great book.
How about one thing parents do that they think helps but actually hurts?
Lack of trust.
One sentence you wish every parent of an 8th grader heard.
Whatever you've done in school today is fine with me. Don't worry about it. You can always make it better and redo it. Your doesn't reflect as much as you know. You know more than that.
Most underrated skill for the modern workforce?
Personal collaboration and interaction. I mean, I think people think about it as being important, but then they don't teach it.
If a parent could only do one thing after listening to this, what should it be?
Read my book and adopt my formula of trick. Start trusting your child. And also, if you don't want to do all the first part, at least be kind.
Well, Esther, it's been a genuine privilege to have you here. I'm so glad we got to meet. You came on. Thank you for your time. For parents who want to go deeper with you and learn more, what should they check out first?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say this. This is important. So I have an app for parents called Parenting Trick. It's powered by AI. And it helps parents from birth all the way to 18 or 20. So you have to do is sign up for it, and it's going to give you all the information for your specific child at any time you want. And also, it isn't in 100 languages yet, but it's going to be in 100 languages next week. So I don't care what language you speak. There's no excuse not to use it.
There we go. All right, we'll put that as well as the Parenting Trick app, plus your books in the show notes and in the descriptions. And before we wrap, what's one thing you want parents to remember from this conversation?
That kindness goes a long way. And when you're kind to your children, they remember that forever. And they also learn to be kind. So let's think about treating your children with kindness whenever you possibly can.
Esther, thank you. We really appreciate you sharing your decades of wisdom with us today. And I hope you come back on the podcast as well. We'll have a deeper, longer conversation. Maybe we'll have a battle royale with your buddy Jonathan.
Yes, let's have a battle royale.
There we go. I'll love to moderate that debate. For everyone listening, remember the goal isn't to manage your kid's life. The goal is to build a kind human who can manage their own. Trust, respect, independence, collaboration, kindness. That's the work. Foundation first every time. Again, Esther, thank you. I'm definitely looking forward to you coming to Pittsburgh, and we'll see you all next time on the Supported Learning Podcast.
Yeah. I'm really excited to come to Pittsburgh too. And by the way, It's a great city for those of you that don't know.
It is a good
I really
city.
love it.
You do get more sun out in California. So, all right.
Oh, well, thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.